Hi guys, today I want to show you the simple yet efficient slime farm design. It yields 16,100 drops per hour, and it's faster than every other single chunk concept you've seen so far. At first sight, the farm doesn't look very special, but a lot of design choices went into creating this farm, and I want to give you a list of 10 reasons why this farm achieves those high rates. The first reason is that I use the maximum amount of spawning spaces. So here we have a slab every third block. And as you can see here, large slimes can easily fit in between those. Yeah, here you can see them. So in total we have 9 spawning layers. The lowest layer starts at Y6 and the highest is at Y30. The second reason is that we have perimeter conditions. So no other mobs can spawn outside of the slime farm. And yeah, the slime farm can use the full mob cap. And to prevent other hostile mobs from spawning, we just use torches to light the area up, so only slimes can spawn which are unaffected by the light levels. The third reason is a little bit counterintuitive, and so far I've seen nobody else using this design choice for a slime farm. So slimes can spawn in layers below Y40, but our highest spawning layer is at Y30, so why don't I use the other 10 layers for slime spawning? And the reason why I do this has to do with the spawning algorithm. So the spawning attempts per chunk are divided into sub-chunks. So a sub-chunk is a 16 times 16 times 16 volume of blocks. And yeah, the spawning algorithm always checks for the highest opaque block. So in this case, the highest opaque block are those slabs here. And we have the spawning attempts are spread in between 2 sub-chunks. So if you would add a third another layer in the third sub-chunk for spawning attempts, then the spawning attempts are spread in between 3 sub-chunks. And it's easy to see, now here we have 9 layers in 2 sub-chunks, so that's 4.5 on average. If I would start using the third sub-chunk, I could add 3 more layers, so 12 layers in total. Then we just have 4 spawning layers per sub-chunk, which is less. So this farm runs faster than if you would stack up 3 more layers on top of it. Later we make a comparison of the 2 farms, and then you also can see the numbers. And the fourth reason has to do with the difficulty. So here I play on hard mode and I've spent a few days in this world. The reason is that the size of the slimes that spawn depends on the difficulty. So in easier difficulties, more smaller slimes would spawn. And on higher difficulties, larger slimes would spawn. And obviously, since the larger slimes would split up into smaller slimes, you get more slime balls per large slime. So yeah, it's important that you play on higher difficulties to get the full rates. And since the large slimes are really the ones that bring home the bacon, we don't want to do anything that would be detrimental for large slime spawning. So on the side here, as you can see, we have those walls. And we added an extra slice on the side here, so they don't prevent any large slime spawning. So we would have this wall right here, so that's where the slime chunk starts. Then a large slime couldn't spawn here, because it would collide with the wall. That's why we have, on both sides, we have those this extra slice of blocks, so we don't prevent any large slime spawning. So this is a 18 times 16 platform. The 7th reason is it's pretty standard for mob farms, is that we don't have any spawn preventing blocks on the foot level of the mob spawning. So for example, if we would have a solid block right here, this would decrease the spawning attempts. That's why we have a glass wall around the farm. The 8th reason is that we have a very efficient killing method where no drop is lost. So in other slime farm concepts that either use cactus or lava, always a small percentage of the drops would be lost. So in for example, typical cactus killing method, about 15 to 20% of the drops got lost because the drops immediately get deleted by the cactus. Or also sometimes in lava-based farms, small slimes would jump into the lava and also the drops would be lost. But yeah, with the magma blocks here and collecting with minecarts, it's really 100% efficient. So the 9th reason is actually super important for slime farms. You need to dig out the blocks above the slime farm. So very often you see people just digging out the blocks that are required for the actual slime farms, but don't worry about the stones above the farm. But since I talked about this earlier with the spawning algorithm, those influenced spawning rates, it's super important to always dig out your slime farm and also the blocks above it. So dig out all the blocks above the footprint, which is this extra roof on the side here. And the 10th reason is that we try to kill the mobs as fast as possible, and we do this by attracting them with golems. So in the moment when the slime would spawn, he would run towards the golems on the side here, but he can't actually reach them. So the small slimes are 51 centimeters high, and between those fences there's just a 50 centimeter gap, so no small slime could jump in there. So far I've just made a lot of claims and talked about why this farm should be really fast in theory, but we can also take a look at the numbers. So I've added 4 more farms here for comparison reasons, and I had this world running for 10 hours. I increased the mob cap with Gnambon's carpet mod, because so I can run everything at the same time without influencing each other, and none of those farms, if you have them on their own, would be influenced by the mob cap anyway. The showcased farm yielded 16,100 drops per hour, which is the same result as when I tested it exclusively. Then I thought it would be interesting to add the 3 more layers, so to use the third subchunk and use every spawning layer below Y40. And with this farm I just got 10,800 drops per hour. So if you build a slime farm, always stop with the spawning layers at Y30. Then I thought it would be interesting to also compare with an older slime farm concept that I, by the way, also built in a survival world once. It's the slime farm by Zizuma, and it's a little bit outdated, so killing the slime with cacti at that time was probably one of the best choices, but since you lose a lot of drops when the slime balls get deleted by the cactus, isn't really optimal, so it yields 3,000 drops per hour. I also tested the Conspiracy slime farm, which yielded 8,000 drops per hour when they tested it in 1.8, but since the spawning algorithm changed in 1.11, it would only yield 5,000 drops per hour now. I also tested what would happen if you don't remove the blocks above the slime farm, and that's the first showcased farm, and it just deals 5,500 drops per hour now. So always remove the blocks above the slime farm, and don't build anything out of opaque blocks above your slime farm, and mob farms in general. I also made this version right here. So the designs I showed before, they all didn't require any bedrock removal. But if you want to go all out and remove some bedrock, you could make this version right here. It doesn't require any additional roofs on the side, because we already have an opaque block, which is the lowest bedrock block. And yeah, it's even faster. It yields 18,200 slime balls per hour. One last note before I start with the tutorial. We tested all the slime farms in a normal world with normal terrain generation. And the reason is there's something in the code. In flat worlds, slime spawning is decreased by 75%. And thanks a lot to Gnambon for showing this to us. Okay, now let's start with the tutorial. I'm gonna build this version right here that doesn't require any bedrock removal, because I think that's the version that most people are interested in, but you can also find the other versions in the world downloads. Okay, I've marked out the borders of a slime chunk, and now let's start with the unloading system. So we go from bottom to top. So start with a line of rails, and to the other side. Then add normal rails like this, go back again. Okay, that's the chunk border, then one more. And one more here. Then I can remove this one again and put down blocks. Then let's go back to the other direction. And back here. By the way, you don't need all golden rails, so if you want to save on some resources, you could also mix in some normal rails in there. Okay, I have to go past it. It's a bit stupid in some locations, but yeah, I managed to do it. Now let's continue with the macro blocks. So I marked out the chunk borders again with slabs here. So add an 18 wide, or 18 long and 3 wide magma platform. like this, and you can also start filling up spawning layers like this. Okay, I'll also add the standard minecart unloading system, but this part is a bit up to you, so where you exactly want it, so you can transport the items to your storage. I'm just gonna put a chest here. So we need a hopper, comparator, repeater, and torch. Here we take the output, it goes into block, torch, repeater, block, and another rail right here. And yeah, same on the other side. Then a rail. Okay, now we also need to power the rest of those powered rails. So let's put down a torch here and one there. I also need to update those. Do this on the side as well. So let's start with this one now, and then this torch. And here for the middle we just use some levers and power the magma blocks above. So now all the rails are powered. Now mirror the whole thing to the other side, and then also I can add the hopper minecarts already if you want to. And now we just need to fill in the space in between. I have slabs. Slab type of course doesn't matter. Okay, then we need to light up the spawning area, so we need torches. So we put them down like this. Okay, this part isn't great if you have OCD. You need one torch in the middle. So this would be the middle, but you just need one of those. Okay, so I cloned the spawning layer 8 more times, so I have the 9 layers in total. And now we can start with the iron golem cage. So we put him down on some glass blocks, and so no other mobs can spawn there, because since 1.9 mobs could spawn inside of other mobs. And then we put this fence around it. Like this. Then we can spawn the golem here and try to push him inside the cage. The block, yeah, now he's in there. Then we can also build some blocks around it, so I don't know if you haven't lit up the area, a skeleton wouldn't shoot him. Okay, and we leave those 4 fence blocks at the head level of the golem open. Because the golems would always track the eye level of the golem, so they can see him from everywhere. One golem also covers 2 spawning layers, so as you can see here. The slimes that spawn here can look down and see the golem, and those just need to look up. Okay, so the next golem will be placed at this height. Okay. We can fill up the rest fences again, so the slimes will be guided if they fall down. Oops, there was one too high. Sorry. Here we need the fences again. Yeah, and then it's just repeating it. Summon in the next golem. And total for this farm here we need 5 golems, and then mirror it to the other side. Okay, I've cloned it over, and now we can add the extra roof. So here we need just some bottom slabs. Could also use leaf blocks, but I think yeah, stone slabs are kind of available, or easier available than leaves. And here we need a 3 wide gap, so all the slimes could fall down. Then here we also go out 2 additional blocks, and now more or less we just need to fill it up. Here we go out 7 blocks, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now let's connect this. Then fill everything up in between, and do this for all 4 corners and all the sort of sides here. Just the pattern repeats. So I filled up the extra roof on the side here for extra spawn attempts, and to get the last bit of efficiency, I could also punch out those fences here, and also put down some opaque blocks, slabs for example. So now also those spots are covered, and we can also put bottom slabs at this height and fill it up. So now we also covered those spots. Okay. And of course do it for both sides. Okay, now all there's left to do is add a wall around it. So I would recommend to use glass blocks, or could even use slabs if you want to, just not full blocks at this level. And build a wall all around it. I'm not entirely sure how necessary it is to have a wall on the side here, because all the slimes spawn would track the golem and run towards him. There's not a big chance that it would be pushed out to the side here, but I prefer to have my farm nicely contained, so the slimes wouldn't track me, for example. So that's why I have walls all around it. Yeah, and then build up your walls up to the side, and you're done. So thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.